Hello, you guys. How are you doing today? Welcome back to the 13th tense. And today we're talking about stakeholder communication. What exactly are you going to learn today? How to communicate professionally with different stakeholder groups in IT. 12 key vocabulary words with phonetics. Grammar, register adaptation, Hedging language, model verbs for influence. How to write a stakeholder update, manage expectations, and escalate issues diplomatically. And, як завжди, ви можете знайти цей воркшіт і набагато більше освітнього корисного контенту в телеграм-каналі і інших соцмережах 13 Stance. І, відповідно, ви також можете просканувати цей QR-код і вас перекине в наш телеграм-канал, окей? Let's go. Let's go through some words. Stakeholder, that's a person or group with any interest in or affected by a project or decision. Key stakeholders for this project include the CTO, the finance team, and the end users. Stakeholder map. A visual tool showing stakeholders by their level of influence and interest. Before the project kickoff, we build a stakeholder map to prioritize our communication. Expectation. What someone anticipates or assumes will happen. Managing expectations is as important as managing the project itself. Influence. The power to affect decisions or outcomes, also a verb to affect someone's thinking. The CFO has high influence over the budget decisions. She needs to be kept closely informed. Align. To bring people into agreement or ensure goals and priorities match. We need to align the product team and the sales team on the launch date before we communicate externally. Engage. To involve or communicate with someone actively and regularly. It is important to engage senior stakeholders early. Surprises at the end create problems. Update. A regular communication to keep stakeholders informed of progress. I send a weekly update to the project sponsor every Friday afternoon. Consult. To ask someone for their input or opinion before making a decision. We should consult the compliance team before we finalize the data handling approach. Escalate. To raise an issue to a higher level of authority when it cannot be resolved at the current level. If the vendor does not respond by Thursday, I'll need to escalate to the program director. Manage. To handle or control stakeholder relationships and communications actively. Good project managers do not just report, they actively manage stakeholder relationships. High interest, high influence. A stakeholder categorization. Those who care about the project and have power to affect it. The CEO is high interest, high influence. Engage her closely and keep her informed at all times. Keep informed. To regularly update someone so they always know the current status. The legal team doesn't need to be consulted, but they should be kept informed of key decisions. A little pro tip. Not all stakeholders need the same communication. You can use the stakeholder map matrix. High influence plus high interest means manage closely. Frequent, detailed updates. High influence, low interest. Keep satisfied. Brief but timely. Low influence plus high interest. Keep informed. Regular, accessible. Low influence plus low interest. Monitor. Minimal context. And getting this wrong wastes your time and frustrates stakeholders. So as for grammar, we're going to talk about some register adaptation, hedging, and modal verbs for influence. The structure is: why do we need register adaptation? To change how you write depending on who you're writing to. Casual, to a colleague: hey, just checking, are we still on track for Friday? Formal, to a director: I wanted to provide a brief update on progress and flag one that may require your input. Very formal, to the board: this note is provided for the board's information regarding the current status of project. Hedging language: soften statements to sound professional, not alarmist. This may have an impact on the timeline. Not this will delay everything. There is possibility that the deadline could be at risk. Not we will miss the deadline. I would suggest that we consider an alternative approach. Not we need to change this. It appears that the vendor may need additional time, not the vendor is late. And modal verbs for influence and recommendation. Could. I could arrange a call to discuss this further. Should. We should align on this before the steering meeting. Would. It would be helpful to get your input on this by Thursday. Might. It might be worth flagging this to the compliance team. And some key phrases for stakeholder communication. Updating a stakeholder. I wanted to provide a brief update on. As of this week, the project is on track or at risk. I'd like to flag one item that may require your attention. No action is required at this stage. This is for your information only. Managing expectations. I want to make sure you have a realistic picture of. At this stage, the most likely outcome is, if we don't receive X by Y, the timeline may be affected. I want to flag this early so we can manage it together. And escalating diplomatically. I wanted to bring something to your attention. There is a risk that may need your input to resolve. I've tried to resolve this at my level, but I think this needs to be escalated to name and role. And some model stakeholder update email. Let's read and analyze. Subject: Project Phoenix, weekly update, week 26. Hi Sarah, I wanted to send a brief update on Project Phoenix ahead of the steering committee meeting on Thursday. Overall, the project is on track. We have completed the discovery phase and the technical specifications has been signed off by the development team. The next milestone, prototype delivery, is planned for 15th July. I do want to flag one item that may need your input. The integration with the legacy CRM system is proving more complex than initially estimated. There is a possibility that this could add 1 to 2 weeks to the development phase. I'm working with the technical lead to explore options and will have a clearer picture by Wednesday. At this stage, no decision is needed from you. I wanted to make sure you were aware before Thursday meetings. So this isn't a surprise. I'll send an update on Wednesday once we've assessed the impact. Please let me know if you have any questions. Best regards, Olena. Please notice, register is formal, but it is still warm and appropriate for a senior stakeholder who is not the CEO. Hedging, may need, proven more complex, there is a possibility, could add, may have, sounds wonderful. Managing expectations, she flagged the risks early, before the steering meeting with no surprises. Modal verbs, may need, could add, will have, wanted to make sure, sounds wonderful. And she closed with a clear next step. I will update on Wednesday, no action needed, now. Wonderful, wonderful. Let's watch out for some common mistakes. We will be late. There is a possibility that the deadline may be at risk. Hedge. Do not alarm stakeholders unnecessarily. I need to decide by Friday. It would be helpful to have your input by Friday if possible, to soften it. Just wanted to let you know we have a problem. Just wanted to flag an item that may require your attention. It is formal. We do not use problem. We use risk item. The stakeholder needs to be informed. Key stakeholders should be kept informed at each milestone. Use should plus passive for professional recommendations. Yeah? I sent the update to everyone. I sent targeted updates to each stakeholder group based on their level of interest and influence. Stakeholder communication should be tailored, not broadcast. And let's go to this one, a little quick check. Pause the video and rewrite each sentence using Hedging language. And then we can check your answers below. Okay, I'm giving you 20 seconds to do that. Well, here we go. Let's go and check it. So the project will be delayed. There is a possibility that the timeline may be affected. Again, these answers are one of the possible answer. That doesn't mean that that is one and only correct answer. It's just one possible answer. There is a possibility that the timeline may be affected. The second, it appears that the vendor may need additional time to deliver. Let's it. It would be helpful to have your approval by end of the day if possible. Number 4. I'd like to flag a risk that may require your input. Number 5. At this stage, the deadline could be at risk if the dependency is not resolved. Well, take your time, take a second to look at these. Yep, to check your answers, and let's go on to the next one. You have a little speaking challenge actually. Write your stakeholder update. You can choose a real or imagined IT project, maybe the one that you work for, maybe the one that you dream to work for, whatever you want. And write 100 to 120 words stakeholder update email using this structure. Here is the structure. It is very much similar to the ones that we had today. And in the comment, could you think of a stakeholder you communicate with regularly? Are they high interest, high influence, or somewhere else on the matrix? How do you tailor your communication to them? Please share your approach. Use at least 3 words from today's lesson. And you can provide us with the information of a real stakeholder that you communicate with or a made-up one, whatever you want. And the workbook part. I'm not going to show you workbook as always, but you can always find these workbooks in our Telegram channel. Just look up the 13 dance in the Telegram search bar or scan this QR code and you will be in the channel, okay? Well, thank you so much for joining today's lesson. Thank you so much for clicking on the video, and I suppose I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.